So far, we've covered the first two phases of hacking. In the footprinting phase, we gathered a variety of public information to create a profile of our target. In the scanning phase, we focused on learning more about the target's network. And at this point, we should have a basic network map created, but it's going to be missing a lot of key information. In this phase, which is enumeration, we're going to be initiating active connections with the target and actually enumerating various services and things that they have to extract further information, looking for attack points, looking for weaknesses, and ultimately going for the final kill. Stage 4, hacking the network, hacking a system. An active connection enables you to directly query the target system. An active connection also greatly increases your chances of getting caught because you have a permanent, persistent connection to the target, and a lot, or if not all, of enumeration techniques are conducted in an intranet environment, not a internet, which means wide area network, which means public internet. Intranet is local area network within the physical proximity. We're going to be using system attack points like going after default passwords, network shares, routing tables, machine names, users, groups, anything and everything that is open, available, that we can see, that we discovered in the first two phases of the hacking process that we've already performed. There's more than a dozen common techniques, but the most common ones are going after default passwords, which more than often are left unchanged. Especially with like IoT devices, Internet of Things. You're going to see a lot of that in the news if you're paying attention. All of these things are happening because of weak password policies or people who are buying, security cameras or refrigerators and toasters that are connected to the internet, and all of a sudden don't change the password for a year or for two, and hackers turn them into botnets. So going after default passwords, going after DNS files, any foothold that you can, finding any attack point, going after SMTP, which is a standard protocol for the mail or email servers. You can go after user group identifiers. If you can gain access to one box, you can figure out where it is in the network, what it has access to, what the user has access to. Let's look at some of the similarities and differences between enumerating a target that's using Windows versus Linux. Windows and Linux both use users and groups to control access. User objects contain information about the user of the account, what their privilege level is, how much access they have, groups they belong to, and a unique identifier. Users are organized into groups for easier admin management. With Windows and Linux, the user information can be stored either on the local host or on the network. In the case of Windows, it's usually Active Directory. With Windows, the operating system assigns a unique security identifier, or SID, to each user group or even a computer. Each security identifier is unique, but some have consistent properties. For example, if you discover a SID that ends in 500, pop the champagne because that's an admin account. User and group information on Windows is stored in the SAM, which stands for Security Accounts Manager. Actually, later on in this course, I'm going to be showing you how to hack the SAM. It's actually kind of easy. Depending on how far you are in an actual environment, it might be a little bit harder. But where we are for the demonstration, we're going to be cracking a password using word lists. We're going to be going after password hashes, and we're going to be going after the Windows SAM file. It's a lot of fun. Windows operating system is popular with attackers because it has more than a few well-known vulnerabilities. Windows runs a number of services in the background by default, each of which can create a target of opportunity for an attacker. One of them is NetBIOS API. It was originally intended, pay attention, originally intended, same as so many other things. It was intended to aid access to local network resources. But if you can connect to the NetBIOS API, you can get a wealth of information about the network, including users and groups, printer shares, and file shares. Yeah, I'm guessing they didn't design it to do that, but yeah. Another vulnerability is the null session, which allows connections without credentials. Whoo, that sounds like a great idea. Through a null session, you can obtain information like lists of users and groups, machines, lists of shares. It just never ceases to amaze me. If your target is running Windows, you can use a tool called SuperScan, and that's not soup or scan, like soup or salad, SuperScan, to extract information. If your target is running Linux, you can enumerate their systems using basically the same general techniques, though the structure and tools are different. Each Linux user has a unique UID, user ID, and the Linux group has a unique GID, group ID. The UID must be a positive number and is usually above 500 for user accounts. System accounts have numbers below 100. Administrators often use the etc password file to hold user account information, but store the encrypted password in the etc shadow file, which is readable only by root. When this method is used, the password file entry has an X in the password field. Some commands you'll use on Linux are finger, which targets a specific user, rpcinfo, which enumerates into data exposed over the RPC, showmount, which lists shared directories and displays a list of all clients that have remotely mounted a file system. There's another tool called Enum for Linux. Enum for Linux is a tool that allows extraction of info where Samba is in use. And that is not a dance common in Latin or South America. Well, technically it is, but this is a interoperability protocol that facilitates file and printer sharing. It's a file sharing protocol, people. It's like Windows sharing and being able to put a network share up. This is what Linux uses to communicate between Linux and Windows. Let's review what we just learned. Enumeration, third phase of hacking. Initiating active connections with your target so you can directly query and brute force and go after every piece of available information that you can possibly get your hands on. Going after default passwords, brute forcing any passwords you possibly can, DNS transfer zones, weaknesses in email server ports, enumerating targets at using Windows versus Linux. I mean, there's 100 different tools. I could spend, 20 minutes probably just reading you a list of tool names. It's amazing what people have already invented and what's already out there. I want to give you guys a really good start to your ethical hacking careers, understanding this stuff. I'll be happy to give you guys a list of all this stuff in a supplement and kind of give you maybe more of an in-depth thing. Actually, I think that would be ideal for maybe part 2 of this course. But for now, we're going to stop talking about enumeration and move on to the next lesson.